Hello, everybody. Welcome to the FinTech Combine. This is the very first episode for 2026, and this is the series where we talk with and sometimes about community-based institutions, their digital and business transformation projects, and we meet the innovators, entrepreneurs, and fintechs that make it all possible. On this episode, we're speaking with Shawn Gilfedder, the CEO of Kitsap Credit Union, and Troy Wyatt, the CEO of DataOps, about how they are using the DataOps platform to bring Agentic AI to Kitsap's employees and their members. So if you're ready, let's suit up and get out on the field. Well, gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you on today. Why don't you start by introducing yourselves? Shawn, you can go first and tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization that you're with.
Great. Well, Kris, happy to be here. Excited to share a little bit about our story. I'm Shawn Gilfedder, CEO at Kitsap Credit Union in Bremerton, Washington. We're a community-based, mission-driven organization, managing about $2.5 billion in assets. Growth and operational excellence are at our core of our business model and methodology, and we look to create member value every day of the week. So have about 165,000 members, and looking to continue to grow and build efficiencies into our business model.
That's great. And Troy?
Great. Kris, thanks for having us. Appreciate that. My name is Troy Wyatt. I'm the CEO and founder of DataOps. We are a company that is driving kind of the data architecture, supporting AI and agentic AI, with a major focus on data orchestration, agent management, and frameworks delivery for that kind of data OS layer that is required for agentic AI.
Awesome. When did you guys start working together?
2025. Yeah, it's been a year now. Yeah. So, I'll share a little story. I've been walking around with this idea for the last 3 years and was partnered with our internal auditor. And I said, this is the least sexy project we'll ever work on. And she was so excited about it. And I really, I didn't know where to go, but I know what I wanted. And that was, I wanted to build a platform that utilized our data, allowed us to look at our audit processes much more efficiently. And I met Troy for breakfast one morning, and I said, I have this thing. I'm looking for a home for it. I'm hoping that you and your company can help me out. And that's what really, spurred on, the opportunity was for us to, look at how to build, and utilize our data much more effectively. I knew that was the goal that we were sitting on. In the past, it was membership. Now it's membership in their data is what is so critically important. And we wanted to look inwardly first. So that was the catalyst to our conversations.
So when you say looking inwardly, you were talking about that compliance, that internal audit function, kind of looking at your business. Is that what got you down that path?
Yeah, we made a conscious decision to say, are we going to try to expand upon member experience first, or do we want to learn first about how agentic technology could be deployed,
Makes sense.
Throughout our business model, and do that internally first. So our culture is predicated on both member and employee experiences. So we want to focus on the employee experience first, while getting our data organized and put it into a way in which it becomes much more efficiently, a much more efficient tool, for our employees to use across the organization.
So, Troy, talk a little bit about how your solution helped Kitsap do that.
Yeah, fantastic. It was kind of great synergy between meeting Shawn. I kind of echoed Shawn's statement about loan audits not being the sexiest business case to use, for sure. But because of the way we've orchestrated not only the way the platform works, but also how we sell, we start with data, right? And because data drives everything, how do you get clean data? How do you get governed data? Being able to disassemble an organization from a business process standpoint, instead of looking at the macro layer of, hey, let's put in sales agents, or let's put in customer service rep agents, things like that. We start with our customers at that data layer, and we break that data layer down so that we can build ingestion and the curation, the data governance, data security, by using small business processes. And if you think of each one of those small business processes as a micro language model that rolls up to maybe a business language model, that rolls up to domain, that rolls up to enterprise. So eventually you get to, say, Kitsap GPT, if you will, right? By dissecting each one of these small business models, business processes, turning them into repeatable agents, managing that agent framework, and then deploying them into production, you can start at the back office and get your operational efficiency correct, get your data clean, push that out to your users, the employees that are using it, think co-pilots that are out there, and then eventually to the customer service side. Being able to have and work with an organization that had a really great grasp of, I know what my underlying business processes are. I know where I've got a lot of manual labor. I know where my data sources are, but I don't have them wrangled yet, is really where it became quite obvious for us to work with Kitsap as a design partner, just because of the way they were thinking about how they're going to deal with their data, how they're going to deal with the agents that are coming on board, how they're going to eventually push this to their customers.
Shawn, that is typically a perceived barrier for credit unions, right? The ability to co-locate, to correlate, to gather all of this data into a single spot. How did you kind of get past that mental barrier?
Yeah, it was interesting. We have a core value of collaboration and bringing people together, in that conversation, and recognizing as a leader there was a little, I'll say, leap of faith and vision that we had to have, from an organizational perspective. There was some concern. There was fear that, like, well, wow, what if we do this and it fails? What happens next, right? So putting the organization at ease and helping them understand that we're on a journey, and we're on that journey together, and focusing in on our culture and our consistency of continuous learning as an organization. All those characteristics and traits that we have from an organizational perspective were things that we had to leverage to recognize that, we're now bringing AI into the organization. So it's not just something that we turn on and it does this great thing for our members. It's more so as, how do we start to work to upskill the organization, to look at problem solving differently, to understand how we've managed workflows in the past will not only change, but it'll evolve to a point in time where data ops has helped us understand. It's like, a year from now, we'll be deploying FTE with agentic technology, and robotic processes will be working for employees as part of our efforts going forward. Well, that's not what we look like today, right? So, the fundamentals that are in Cotter's book on change management, still apply. And that was, first we had to determine, okay, what's our vision? Where do we want to go? Then more so, it's like, you hear a lot about pilots, use cases, and I would say yes and yes. Like, get your people to lean in, get them excited about the journey and the learning, right? Across the organization, from the programming, development, organization of our data, quality, ingestion of data, building out a private language model, within our Azure platform. Like, all of those things had to happen as part of process from a use case perspective. So, working with data ops, there were things inside of that we didn't know what we didn't know as part of that project. And we needed a design partner to come in alongside of us and help us, understand, what are these, how to utilize these tools more effectively, how to bring that out. What is it that we need from our vendors? How do we, tokenize that data and allow that data to be shared across, the organization. So to have a live use case, and then make that use case kind of the catalyst from an organizational perspective. It's the reason why we looked inwardly first, because we said, boy, our first shot at this, we don't want to put this out in front of the membership. We want the employees to give us the feedback, help us with the learning, refine our process. And that has been, a journey. And it's been a journey that has, driven across segments of our organization. And it's allowed us to truly learn and, build for the future. And, my encouragement is, having a design partner like Data Ops, that's not only in the financial service sector, but in transportation, healthcare, and other places. It really helps broaden the lens, and you start to see, okay, what's best practice, not just what's best practice in financial services.
Troy, is the journey that Shawn's describing part of a repeatable process that you bring to your clients, or do you lean in on the design side and make it a little more custom?
I think in the beginning, the evolution really starts with the design partners, right? So we also learned quite a bit from, the vertical market from the credit unions. But, as Shawn said, business process, especially at the operational side, it's very congruent across verticals, right? So it's how you handle things. I mean, audit in an organization is really the same process. There's different regulations and different compliance. Having a relationship like we have with Kitsap, being a design partner, we were able to lean in to help them modernize their cloud architecture, help them, implement data governance and a data governance program and all those things, because as they start to become the sovereign owners or the stewards of this data, and a lot of it is third-party data that's coming from different systems that are driving all their business processes, we were able to work with them and grow with them, as well as adapt the application. Now, all of those things said, we're able to now move faster and faster with each individual customer, because we understand the root architectures in all of the large cloud environments, the hyperscalers, as well as on-prem. We're able to understand kind of what the lay of the land looks like when you come into an organization, especially around data governance and data management, data sovereignty, because it's a can that's been kicked down the road for 50 years, right? Since we've been writing data to things, right? Everybody doesn't want to do data governance because it's really hard. It's really scary. Nobody pays attention to it. But where we're at today with, trying to train language models and agents that are above an 85% accuracy, all those hallucinations, all those things out there are a product of bad data, right? And insecure data and unclean data, or overly generalized language models. Think the large language models that are out there, they're trained on everything. So you're going to get the statistically best answer. When you work on language models and you work on data that's sovereignly owned by the customer, it's been cleaned and curated and it's cataloged, so we understand what its context is. The answers and the performance you get back from the agents jumps from, the 85 industry kind of standard or accepted, hey, my agent's 85% accurate, into that 90s, the high 90 range. And I think that's why starting at that back end office, cleaning up the data, building the small language models is really going to give the success to the accuracy when we eventually get to the customer facing side with Kitsap.
Shawn, I can hear other credit union leaders in my head saying, yeah, but what about my core? Right. So have you gone as far as to integrate core data into this process as well?
Yes. So we went across our whole vendor stack, and we recognize where that data exists and how that data comes to us. And then we also recognize that we have other systems and environments that eventually, we recognize that the core is not the platform in which the user experience will be delivered, right? So we're Salesforce shop. We have Zest AI, Meridian Link. So we have some great tools to utilize. I would say that this journey is helping us recognize that we may pick some to deliver on the experience in the future state. So I'll just use Salesforce, maybe an aggregation of all, and that may be a platform that we deliver to. But what we're learning is that as we become more efficient, the platform experience may be something unique unto ourselves from an organizational perspective. So, like, I'm not looking I'm looking to partner with Candescent on our
Mm-hmm.
mobile online experience. I'm not looking to recreate that.
Right.
But from an internal perspective, there are other systems that, like, as CEOs, we all know, like, we're not effectively utilizing, some of those systems to maximum capacity. Is like, does this allow us to do that? And is that the so it allows us to look through a different lens, not just on the core, but also on, what platforms are we using from an end user experience, and how do we
Mm-hmm.
get the data that Troy's talking about, ingested into those systems, and can we start to do those things in near real time, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's the other advantage here, is that, speed to execution is much greater now in the environment that, we've created, as opposed to, end of day batch, processes and other things. So, we've recognized that you need to have a culture that accepts these changes and is curious
Mm-hmm.
about what's the answer, to the question that's before you. And we've also recently seen opportunities for us to leapfrog our initial assumptions, right? So it's not like we're just like, oh, well, we thought, A was going to go to B. Now A goes to E. Because, we're, the intuitive knowledge that is coming forward as part of, our business in this journey is helping us better understand, what it is that we want to deliver and how we can deliver and do it, more, better, faster at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
I want to double click on something you said. The core is not your experience layer, right? I think talk to me a little bit more about why data ops, and more importantly, your vision for how service is going to be delivered to your members is really powered by this new agentic capability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's, and I'll reference, back to our learnings, and Troy, you could probably help me with this on the data apps side of
Sure.
the equation. We recognize we are building processes that help our organization connect with and deliver a different experience at the end of the day. So those applications that data ops is helping us build and create, these are experiences that before we would look at the core and say, hey, that's going to take us 6 months, right?
Right.
We have these APIs that we have to deal with. There's a whole layer of engineering that we have to engage. There may be some of that future state,
Right.
but now that we have tokenized data across the organization, our ability to utilize that at our discretion, right? Think about, that's the leapfrog that I'm talking about. It's like,
Right.
those barriers that we've had previously are coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I can jump in there, I think, as we start looking at the cores, you look at it as any other data source, right? It's a function of accounting. It's a function of, operations in the background, but it's not really driving what I think the next phase of, that customer service lens looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're building these agents to do operational things and a lot of the digital janitorial services that, humans don't really want to do or don't need to do, right? Enabling a bit of velocity, helping people focus on the right things. But again, when you start taking, the ownership of your data from the core and from Salesforce and things like that, and make it your sovereign data, at least the views of that data. You're able to now start doing what we're really trying to do, is create a new personalization kind of approach for our customers, for the consumers. How banking and how people interact with their banking system is going to change. So the core functionality of banking as a process, right, needs to be done in that engine that runs underneath it. But the agents that are learning from that data and now are creating personalization and consistent type of conversations with the customers and the users is really where we're driving at. And having the ownership of that data to be able to make decisions at the moment of need, to be able to train new agents and drive those to the edge as the market changes, as your customer base changes. Really it begs the need to have ownership at that data level. And again, that's kind of where DataOps really had started focusing, is how do we ingest that data from all these disparate data sources? How do we curate, catalog, bring that data into the data landscape of the owner, and then make it available for use? And that was really the core aspect of where DataOps had started.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the history in my mind of kind of credit union system dependency, right? And for a long time, we looked at the core as being so important to the member experience. And then eventually that was kind of hollowed out by digital, and digital became the most important. It seems to me what's happening is we're hollowing it out again and saying, no, this layer, this data-centric agentic layer is going to be what drives the experience for credit union members.
Yeah, and again, right? I mean, it's an engine, right? We're going to be relying on the input and the output of that core, much like you would in an ERP system. But instead of looking at dashboards and screens, now we're having interactions with our data, because we have that data, the access to that data. We've trained micro language models to small language models to the enterprise language models based on all of the data brought together holistically, and all the business processes that we've solved by these micro agents that are now deployed. Think, AR, AP, logistics, manufacturing, but they roll up into a domain. So finance has their own GPT, that they large language they can talk to, and manufacturing and sales. And then the CEO can interact with all the data in the organization at that large language model, but in sovereign data for the company.
So, Troy, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your company. When a credit union indicates interest in working with DataOps, what are they typically? Where are they at in their stage of thinking? Right? Do they have a particular use case like Shawn did, or are they kind of coming to you more generally saying, "I know I need to do something, but I'm not sure where to start"? How do most credit unions get engaged with you?
Yeah, I think you hit it right. I think most of the credit unions know that they're kind of running on a treadmill to catch up, or at least marketing and the pundits out there are telling them that they have to hurry up and catch up. I think the hype cycle is definitely in full swing right now. But we engage with customers. We find them kind of all over the map. I think the one commonality that we find in most organizations, not just credit unions, is the state of their data. Do they really have a true data governance and understand the autonomy of their data, and are able to make that data available for use very quickly to data scientists, to report writers, to analytics and stuff like that. I mean, it's a common problem that, again, like I mentioned earlier, has existed for the last 50 years to clean up, right? So getting that right. And then we do quite a bit of what we consider ideation with the customers, where we'll sit down and we'll bring in people from different business units. A lot of it's getting outside of IT and getting into the business and talking to the VP of finance and the CRO, and seeing where their headaches are, and then looking for a path of least resistance for, is that data available from the third party? How difficult will it be to start ingesting, so that we can deliver a micro MVP in 6 to 8 weeks that can immediately go to production. Right? We don't want to do pilots. We want to be able to build a micro MVP that we can productionalize almost immediately on the platform after that. And that takes awareness and ownership of the data. It takes all of the security buy-off and the CISO to do all these things. So that ideation is really about finding this micro business process, if you will, that we can attack. And, Shawn, it was great when I met Shawn and sat down and had breakfast, because he's like, I've got this really cool business process. He goes, not sexy, but we have control of the data. We understand the business process very well. We have champions inside the organization, and we were able to move very quickly because of that.
Shawn, how did you get your credit union ready for this level of change?
Yeah, and what I'm seeing in the marketplace is like folks are pointing fingers at AI is not delivering, and this is these are the challenges. It was called out in a recent Forbes study. Um, Culture is really the barrier. That is, you have to have an organization that is leaning in towards the future and is curious about the future. That is because as we're building processes, where as you mentioned before, it's like in the past you would look at the core to build out that module or that process. Now, in essence, you and your team have the tools to be able to do so, and then you decide, am I going to deliver that online, digitally, or is it something else that we create within our organization? So the democratization of data and our ability to be able to bring that forward and create value for the member and the member experience is ultimately where we're going. We recognize that it's not just about being efficient, but it's about being more effective. So one of the things that we're looking at and exploring, and I shared this with my board, I said, we're an efficient organization. Our efficiency ratio has been in the mid 60s now for the last 2 years. But the effectiveness, so that is when we're making these types of moves, like how effective, like are people coming to the experience? Are they utilizing it? Are they embracing it? Are they feeding it forward so that where it's not just sitting statically on a shelf? It's like, okay, that's our process for IA and what we've prescribed as an organization. Are they using the tools to build on it, right? Because in essence, they can start to query the system and influence the robotic agents that are in that process to change the process. And if you have oversight, the future state is the supervisory controls that exist inside of that space would mean that there is some license for those agents, to start decisioning on their own, with the human oversight from that perspective. It's a complete change from a process standpoint in helping people, through that process and understanding, okay, we're not replacing the human in the process. We're actually modifying your role, and we're trying to take out the mundane tasks, the routine stuff, right? And allow you to have more formative, deeper conversations. Our average talk time in our contact center is over 6 minutes. It's because we've deployed chatbots. We've done other things to take, some of the day-to-day work out of the equation. But what if we want that 6 minutes to be a deeper 15-minute discussion about, financial wellness in your personal finances? We need agents to then pick up the other work, along the way. And that's where, the development that we're seeing and opportunities that we're creating, we're moving towards this thought process of return on innovation. And that is typically we would look at, investment opportunities as a percentage of change, right? So, year over year, we're up 20%. Well, some of the things that we're talking about, it's no longer a percentage. It's an X factor. Like if you think about, creating those agents that are doing that work, well, if we have more of that type of work, for us to add 3, 4, 5, 8, it's just a matter of data and bandwidth from a technology perspective, right? It's not, it's not training that's needed, right? So we can do things faster and we can create exponential change. And how's that traditionally measured? You would look at your return on investment. I like to coin the term, return on innovation, because it's truly moving us to, a different experience and a different way of delivering our services.
Is there a particular type of skill set that's necessary at the credit union, Troy, in order to make the best use of your platform?
I think the driving factor is more from the business side of a true understanding of the business processes, right, and their effect on operations. I think having those subject matter experts available and people that truly understand their workflow, their environment is probably the biggest hurdle. Again, it's getting outside of IT and getting into the business to drive these, because what we're doing is we're working on business logic. We're not, we are working on the network, we are working on cloud, we're working on data and all those IT things, but all those exercises are being driven by what business process is. And then again, there's always the upskilling and the resource requirement of, do we have people that are really understand data governance and data security and data compliance? Do we have people that understand data science and analytics and strong math and all the stuff that makes your head hurt? It's interesting as you go into an environment, because number one, this is moving so much faster than everything else we've seen before. I mean, it's moving faster for adoption than email did, than the internet did, and showing my age of being around living in a world that existed before all those things. But this is moving so fast that the IT departments, the professionals that are running the cloud environments, running the infrastructure, and responsible for all the data, they're running as fast as everybody else to keep up. So there's a lot of learning inside the organization, and that's been a huge push for us from the enablement side. Going in and making sure that we're explaining why we're moving to this type of a topology with data, or how we're using these technologies to move and secure data, or how we're integrating with their existing landscape. Right, we've got customers that are very, very mature, that have been in the cloud or have very, very mature on-prem data centers doing all this type of work, and then you've got ones that aren't, that have maybe one foot in where they've got some data in the cloud and they're using mostly third-party SaaS apps for everything. So across the board. So I think as an industry-wide issue, right, I think the technology is enabling people within our industry to do things much faster, kind of as Shawn was alluding to be able to remove some of the friction to do the important things, but also to kind of stand on the shoulders of giants to be able to find answers and automate things very quickly, so that we can be more productive.
Shawn, I'm going to circle back to something you mentioned. You talked about investment, right? Kitsap is an investor in data ops. In fact, you did it under a change or a new Washington state law. You want to talk a little bit about that? And you guys were the first ones to do that.
It was interesting. Several years ago, we helped lobby for RCW 3112 436, and I didn't memorize that. I actually looked at my notes.
It just rolls off the tongue.
That was impressive.
But at the time, it was interesting because it was like, some of the QSO funds were just coming out, right? NDC was around. Circle was, I think, in their first round of fundraising. And in Washington, we have a very progressive state charter. And because we're surrounded by technology companies here in the greater Seattle marketplace, it was easier for us to solicit the regulatory and legislative environment and promote the opportunity for us to make a direct equity investment in an organization, as opposed to formulating a QSO or going through a managed fund. And it really is dependent upon the flavor of investment that you want to have. And the best example I could give you is it's like making a direct investment in a stock that you believe in, as opposed to buying that stock through either a mutual fund or an ETF, right? So instead of going through a managed account, this investment sits as direct equity on our balance sheet, with a market valuation, right? So the advantages for us is to be have that opportunity to work with Troy and his team be at the table, and not only, speak on behalf of Kitsap Credit Union,
Mm-hmm.
but also see what's happening with their other clients and how that's, developing. That just broadens our lens and our understanding of how, other executive teams are utilizing, agentic technology and bringing those things forward. So, um, now Washington chartered state credit unions can invest up to 5% of their net worth, as direct equity, into opportunities. And, if you feel like that's an advantage, then it's, truly an opportunity to entertain discussions like what we did, where, early stage ventures, or early stage projects,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you find great partners. Um, we determined long ago, it's like, these are skill sets that we need to find great partner relationships, right? These are
Mm-hmm.
not skill sets like we'll eventually get ourselves there, but as you know, that, from a cooperative perspective, we know how to, engage and bring in
Right.
partners and solve for problems. And
Mm-hmm.
that RCW, allows us that, that flexibility. And I was talking to one of my peers the other day. I think they were managing like 8 QSOs within their organization, and it's cumbersome,
Yeah.
right? It's cumbersome. It's like 8 governance structures, right? For, I think at times, our friends on the other side of the aisle help put those things in place to just, slow credit unions down, as opposed to,
Yep.
help us move towards innovation. And this is one of those rules that helps us move faster towards the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities.
Troy, what does it mean to have an investment from Kitsap?
Yeah, I think it's incredible for us as an organization, an R&D organization, as a startup. When you're in the beginning, you don't have a lot of luxuries to fail. You just don't, right? The most important thing is successful customer deployment, successful customer satisfaction, all those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's what drives us. It's not the revenue. And having the investment, obviously, from, can we move faster and quicker is a wonderful thing. But it's
Mm-hmm.
also that level of commitment, right? Where we both got a lot of skin in the game to do this. It gets the teams really working cohesively together, because we're all really on the same team, right? We're working for the same goal, and driving that forward, and being able to have that type of open and honest conversation with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
It has both of, the advantages. They also get to see how the sausage is made a bit, in the back end, right? At the end of the day, they get to see the scars and the warts of, well, that didn't work. Okay, well, that worked great. Those types of things. But it's been a great relationship, for us, I think, more so, on the team side than on the monetary side. Obviously, that's fantastic, and we love that investment. But that connection that it created between the two companies is really where this came together, I think. And it was a byproduct that I don't think I saw, coming in. I think it was great. We have a customer that also wants to invest. It's going to allow us to move faster. I really didn't see the soft piece of how much that was going to integrate the teams and allow us to move much faster than we actually did. We're able to.
Chris, Troy's a credit union convert now.
We got another one.
Yep. Yeah. So it's my new
That's
favorite
excellent.
vertical. Love you guys.
That's excellent. This is such an impressive story. I am sure, Troy, that you're going to get a ton of interest. If a credit union is interested in following up with you, how do they reach out and get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think the best way to connect with us is through our website at DataOps. We've got all the contact information that's there. In helping us, reach out to Shawn's always been a great person to talk to as well. So I think Shawn knows a lot of people in the credit union industry as well. I implore you to reach out and get Shawn's take on it as well. But, from the connectivity side, we're available. We have a national presence. We're actually working in a couple different countries as well. So we have a pretty long reach. But from nationally, for the credit union side, we have good coverage across the United States, and would be more than glad to entertain a conversation.
Yeah. Really, congratulations, Shawn. I am very, very impressed by what you've done and led your credit union through. I can't wait to keep an eye on you guys and see how well you keep going with this. This is really exciting.
Awesome. Well, Kris, thank you for your time today and helping us share the story.
Anytime. Thank you guys for being on.
Thank you very much.
Let me tell you, that conversation was a great way to start the year. Those guys are really doing some terrific work. If you like this content, please like and subscribe on your platform of choice. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next time.